Interesting thing to me. She said, I want to know when you're coaching a game what you're seeing, right? So that got me thinking, well, I see flowcharts when I watch games, right? At the same time that I see flowcharts, I see this. So what I've done is I've taken each set and I've broken it. So like we took a timeout down 11-13 in the first set. At that point, you can see what each player had done from 0-0 to 11-13, right? Haley had 2 passes, a 2 and a 3. She was passing 250. She had 6 attack attempts, no kills, no errors. She had 5 dig attempts, 2 digs, no errors, and she had created a half a point, which means she was involved in a combination block, right? So you can see what each player is doing in that section of play. After that timeout, Laguna took a timeout. We were up 15-13. So from the end of my timeout to the start of Laguna's timeout, you can see Haley had 1 passing attempt that was a 2. She had 3 attack attempts. She had 2 kills, no errors. She made 2 digs. She scored 2.5 points. Does that make sense, like what's happening here? So you can see how each player did in that next section of play. Then you can see how each player did in the section of play from 15-13 to 17-14 when Laguna took their second timeout. You can see what each player did. And then you can see how play ended from that second timeout Laguna took to us winning 25-17. And then I put the stats out there for you on the side for that first set. Go to page 2. I've done the same thing for you. So you can see the impact that each player is having. Laguna took a timeout, they were up 10-9. We took a timeout, we were down 16-17. Then the second timeout was 16-19 us. I subbed Rhea in at 16-20 for Haley, because that was another way I could influence the game. And then we ended up losing 19-25, and you can see what we did like in that section right there. And then you can see how each player did. Most significantly to me was what happened to our 0-2 during that time. You can see in the first set, she went from passing 2.40 on 5 attempts to passing 1.40 on 10 attempts. She went from hitting 167 on 6 attempts to hitting negative 067 on 15 attempts. She dug 2 out of 3 balls. She earned 2 points, and she committed 4 unforced errors. I look at our 0-1. She had 11 passing attempts. She passed 182, which was down from her first set of 2.3. She had 14 attack attempts, 6 kills, no errors. She had 428 in that. She dug 50% of the balls, 5 digs out of 10 attempts. She was responsible for earning 7.5 points and no errors. So I see this while I'm watching us play, right? So that influences what we're going to do as we go into the third game. And so now we're going to watch the third game, third set. So here we go. So we earn a point, just like we practiced it. We're beating that slide out to the antenna. Pretty long rally. So tonight's level play being created. We're going to kind of mishandle a dig on this. I think it's on this play. No, the first swing kill. Sorry. Thinking of the wrong spot. Yeah, right there. We kind of, August and Gabe run into each other. You know, and I looked at that instant in time as like, I'd rather have two people going for a block deflect than people looking around, right? So I don't think there's anything bad or wrong about that, right? So I make a decision right here after I see that ace happen. I think that I have statted so many things for so long in my life. I don't have to, I think I'm so sensitive to statistics that I don't have to like be looking at stats all the time to know statistically how somebody's playing. And our 0-2, her statistical performance had dropped so much in the second set. And I started her in the third set because I want to give her a chance. I mean, you know, it's like new set, right? She played great in the first set. She struggled in the second set. I'm going to start off, you know, and go with her in the third set. But as soon as that happened, knowing what had happened in the second set, I'm thinking I'm going to pull the trigger on her right now because I don't know that she's going to pull out of this, right, at this point. So I've overlaid the statistical information and not the whole match. And I think this is a real important thing that I think is how the game is now, maybe than how it was in the past. It's like the only thing that exists right now for us is this set to 15, right? It doesn't matter how somebody's going to end the match statistically. It matters what are we going to do in this set to 15. And I had evidence building statistically that my 0-2 was not going to play well. So I just pulled the plug on her right now. If she had statted out well in the second set and we had lost, and she got ace there, I never would have taken her out. It was the culmination of statistical data that was happening at the time. Does that make sense? Come right back, earn a point off a nice pass. You know, it's a good rally. And just kind of just as a side, one of the things that we talked about during the year, and we talked about it early in the year before we started competing, and we talked about it again before we started going to AAUs and JOs. I talked to my team about the 2014 National Championship 18 Open game, Coast against Wave. There's a nice shot by Haley off the outside edge of the block. And because we were at JOs and some of them watched the match and I said, what do you guys remember happened in that match? And they're like, Coast blew out Wave in the first set. And I said, what happened in this, I think Wave blew out Coast maybe in the first set. So what happened in the second set? Well, the team that lost blew out the team that won in the first set. And I said, exactly right. I said, what happened in the third set? It was a dogfight, you know? And Coast ended up winning it in 3. And because I wanted them to understand that when you're playing a good team, you can get blown out in a set. It doesn't mean you're going to lose the match. And in fact, one of the things I asked them to prepare themselves for at the start of the season last year, and then we reiterated it before each of these national championship events, and I reminded them of it after the second set when we lost. I said, you guys, we've talked about it all year. Remember what happened last year in the match, Coast versus Wave? And they knew it right away, you know? team got blown out in the first set, the other team blew them out in the second set, third game was a dogfight. I'm like, right. So we kind of handled them in the first set, they just handled us in the second set, and now we're in the dogfight, right? So let's go. So because I didn't want them to like panic if after we lost that second set. We know this happens in volleyball. It's not going to surprise us. They're good, right? Good teams are going to really run you out sometimes. So do you get that? Like, I did not want my team to become distracted at that moment in time just because like we couldn't put good play together at the very end there, and they did. And I think it was partly because of I had mentally prepared them for we might get blown out at any point in a set. We're not going to get distracted by it. We're just going to do what we do every day. We're going to approach things the way we approach it every day, and we're just going to move on, right? Let that go and move on, right? So that's something that I've noticed more in the last couple of years, and I even think I see it at the college level. You know, two things are happening. More sets are going like past 25, even with what are on paper statistically weaker opponents, and you're seeing more blowouts in 25-point sets when two teams are good. You know, I mean, I don't know, it'd be interesting to run the numbers on it, Kathleen, since the world went to rally score in 01, you know, and college went to an 03 or 04, I think, I can't remember. But it's just something that I think I'm seeing more of. So I feel like now I've got to prepare my team for this scenario that might happen so it doesn't inadvertently distract us. So we're up 8-5 on the switch. As you can see on your flow charts, you know, we're making plays, they're making plays. We've just made more plays than them at this point. You know, we make a block on the straight one there. And then Laguna takes a timeout. They're down 5-9. And, you know, he could have taken a timeout earlier. He chose to wait to 9-5. You know, I probably would have taken a timeout earlier. Again, because if you look at your flow charts, like I respond to opponents controlling play. And we were controlling play, you know? So if that was happening to us, I probably would have taken a timeout a little bit, a point earlier. Now we had a touch call on this, and I think it's unfortunate, but that's going to happen. Again, I could have made a big deal about that, but you know, we're playing well, I feel, at this point, and I think I just got to keep my team about executing. We spent a lot of time defending that ball with our off blocker, and so I was a little disappointed that we didn't make that play. But Bray had not played very much, so I take a timeout at 9-7, and if you can look at your flow chart, you can see they made back-to-back plays, a first swing kill, first swing kill on a Bic, and then they transition that go kill there. So I don't want Laguna to get anything going momentum-wise, and they just executed 2 plays in a row. So at this point, I'm taking a timeout, just trying to help us reset. And remember, like underneath all this is my belief that winning is hard. What had happened right before that play, after I took that timeout, I called Mac down off the end of the bench, and I said, if they win this point, you're going in for Brea, right? Now, statistically, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I really felt like if we couldn't make a play, at this point, I needed to interrupt play again and try and like save a timeout, because that would have meant they've either executed their third play in a row or we just made an unforced error. Bray came out and hit that kill, and I was like, okay, we won the point. So no move from Mac at that point. I really felt like, our 0-2 had, statistically, I didn't know what I was going to get out of her at this point. It's the fourth day of play. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things that that go into winning on the fourth day for a big event. And something that's on my mind too is that I believe winning's hard. I believe winning's really hard in this scenario. Fourth day of a national championship, you're playing through the gold division, and really at this point, I'm trying to help my players manage just everything that's going on mentally so that we're not creating heightened pressure, so that, because you can start to see kids kind of short-circuiting mentally, and it's just the work they're doing. Physically, they're tired. It's the fourth day. Everybody's tired. So there's a whole bunch of things that are just going to be harder to do. And this is something we had talked about all year, too, on the third day of qualifiers and on the fourth day of AAUs, is that it's hard to play well on the last day of an event. So winning's always hard, is what I believe, and I believe it's hardest to play well on the last day of an event. So I've got to manage my team in such a way that I can help them, assist them in playing well. Right? Well, playing well is what we've described all year. It's like play low error, efficient volleyball. We're going for stuff still, but we're not going to try and do too much, and we're also not going to play safe, ideally, right? So this is kind of my whole thought here as we're going through this match, and I felt like in the second set, late in the second set, that people were just mentally a little bit fatigued, and that went into some of the uncharacteristic mistakes that we made. But I also had to give Laguna credit because they continued to put good pressure on us, and they played really well. So we're up 11-8 here, and I think we're responding well. Laguna takes the timeout there, down 8-11. Nice dig by Bray, and I'm really watching Brea's position during this time. That's a great shot. So I'm really looking at Brea's position this time. It's the only move I can really make, I feel, in the match if I'm going to make a move. So the question is, what can I do to help my team create the earned points that I just believe we're going to have to get to win this thing. So I'm really watching her position, and if I'm going to make any kind of move here. So she gets aced here, and if you look at the stats in the third set, she gets aced there. She's not nailing passes, but that's the first time she's gotten aced. She had nailed the pass, and I put her in the second set. I'm just kind of feeling like, at this point, I'm going to give her like another shot. She comes right back and does this. I think, man, in-system pass after you got aced. I'm liking that response. Misses that dig, but I also know that kid's good, right? So, because the thing in my mind now is I've got potentially two moves left. I've got a timeout, which I take right here, and I've got a sub. So I'm happy with what Bray is doing. I think we're getting more out of her than what we were going to get out of our 0-2 at this point. Now, I might have been wrong, but at pretty much when Brea sided out for us when she sided out earlier in the third set, I just felt like we're so deep in the game that unless she just does something awful, I'm pretty much going to go with her. So I take my second major move at 11-11. Another in-system pass. And we get a stuff block on their outside hitter, so we earn a point there. Transition kill that F, 13-11. So I'm happy, right? We just earned 2 points after the timeout. I'm thinking that was good. Successful move. We get a good touch block, get a kill there, so they earn that transition kill, or that rally kill. It's 13-12, and of course I'm thinking, do I make a move with my 0-2 here? And again, I'm thinking if I make a move now, we're actually going to lose. Not lose the game, but we're going to lose from a performance standpoint. That's a one-option pass, but we've sided out on one-option passes before. Again, it's a good rally. Another good shot. Deep 5-6 seam. It's 13 all. Obviously, I'm thinking, do I sub in my 0-2? But I really felt like the data had accumulated to the point in the match that if I sub in, especially now, the likelihood is low that she's going to perform. We go in-system pass there. I think, oh, I'm right. Another good kill there. Another good kill there, So we lost 15-13. I was really pleased with the performance, especially when I looked at it statistically. I was pleased with the effort level, and I thought it was good volleyball, And if we can play good volleyball, we're going to have a good chance to win. But we're not always going to win, right? So. And I believe winning's hard. So I believe winning's hard. My goal is for our teams to play good volleyball. And we just lost. But we lost playing good volleyball, I felt like. As a coach, I want to be responsive to the game. I felt at the time I was being responsive, and I felt, even in retrospect, I was being responsive appropriately, right, at what I consider to be critical moments in time in the match. And you could look at it and say, because somebody asked me afterwards, did I forget about Mac? I was like, I didn't forget about Mac. What I didn't forget about was her passing 1.4 in the second set. That's what and I didn't forget about the 0 option pass that happened at the start of the third set, right? There's no guarantee that she would have gone out there and done poorly. There's no guarantee she would have gone out there and done well, right? But I'd weighed the evidence, and I just felt like the best chance we have was leaving the people I had out there at the time, And I'm not so arrogant to say that I made the right decision. I made a decision based on the information I was looking at the time, right? And that's what we're paid for as coaches. But take in the information, right? So I think of matches, I think of sets. I don't think of matches, I think of sets in flowcharts and performances in blocks in the set, right? Then I look at past to predict future. You know what I mean? If 0-2 had played statistically a little bit better in the second set, then I'm more likely to go to her late in the third set. I'm more likely to leave her out there when she gets aced on that first ball, first of all. So I'm likely to move later in the third set with her. Because to me, the game is about, you've got 6 positions to try and earn 18 or more points and commit 5 or fewer errors, right? You've got 6 positions who can do that. So you've got this position playing plus something, minus something, right? Each position is doing this. You've got to look at any position that is playing low or negative and think, can I plug somebody in there who can play this position net positively for us, right? Because again, if I'm going with high error kids, we're going to lose. So I'm thinking about keeping the errors down and creating chipping on a point here or there, right? Because if a kid's on the bench and she can play high positive, well, then she shouldn't be on the bench, right? So you're going to the bench with kids who are low positive kids, right? So I'm just trying to plug that thing in, right? Why I brought O2 up to talk to her at 10-11, I think, was because if we had not scored at that point, I was going to go with her because she at least has a chance to score maybe better than the sub I had in, even though in the second set, look at her stats, she had negative. So that's still on my mind. So it's still not a move that I'm anxious to do, but I would have done it at that point if we had not sided out, because I feel like I would have needed to affect the match at that point. The sub 0-2 kills, so I'm like, okay, we're good. And then the game got so deep, so late, I just felt like I'm going to go with who's out there. Because we didn't play poorly at the end there. We had chances to score. We didn't execute them from the standpoint that we hit shots that got dug or control blocked or whatever. So, but I didn't feel people bailed out. I didn't feel people did safe stuff. Plays were a little awkward, and that's how the game plays sometimes. We didn't really get great in rhythm looks at the ball, and they got a couple in rhythm looks in transition. And sometimes that's just the way the game plays. It's like, because I think that when kids lose, they feel responsible. And sometimes, even if they've played well, they feel responsible. And to me, like, we've got to understand that and manage that. Because nobody's done, right? A kid on 15s isn't done, even though it's the last match of the year. A kid on 18s isn't done, right? And they're playing in a couple months if they're going to college, right? So how we frame all this stuff has got to be, one, consistent, and two, real. And to me, I looked at those last few points, and it's unfortunate we didn't get some more kind of in rhythm attempts, but that's the way the game plays sometimes. If you look at the video, you look at the first set, our 0-1 didn't get any kills in her first 6 swings. She also got no really good looks at the ball in the first 6 swings. Like, there was really no in rhythm, good tempo kind of stuff. And the game plays awkward sometimes, So we got to kind of accept that and kind of understand that and, be real. I'm not saying don't be real with people, but, be real from the perspective of it's hard to win.